Good afternoon. I am a very proud alumni of the Microsystems Technology Office. And very much like Ms. Hsu said this morning, I believe that microelectronics and microsystems form the basis of a lot of the magic that the DoD is able to field. I'll take the opportunity to note that my friend and colleague, Dr. Carrie Dugan, who is the director of the Biological Technology Office, and she is somewhere in this audience, she doesn't think that microelectronics form the basis of all the magic, but she is extraordinarily interested in the overlap between electronics and biology. And if you have any magical ideas on the topic, I, in all seriousness, encourage you to find her at lunch and overwhelm her with your good ideas, because that is actually why she is here in the audience today. So what I want to talk to you about today is what a STOW program looks like and how we take advantage of microelectronics and microsystems. So we still do all the traditional things that we have always done, and those are shown over on the right-hand side of the slide: active and passive sensing, battlefield effects, command and control, and communications, systems of autonomous systems, and empowered human decision-making. But because we're called the Strategic Technology Office, which really means nothing, right? We sort of view ourselves as being able to do whatever we want to do. So we're also interested in economic security, infrastructure security. One of my big passions is food security. We're interested in supply chains. We're interested in manufacturing. We are kind of all over the place. So any interesting ideas that sound like they're really hard and will change the world, you should probably come talk to us, because we're probably interested in that as well. One of the things that Ms. Hsu said this morning that we fully embrace is the idea of being able to do things very rapidly and at scale. So while it's really great to go build an F-35, and I'm sure that that's extraordinarily important, what STOW likes to do is very rapid programs that are extraordinarily disruptive, change the conversation. If it's on your roadmap right now, that actually doesn't interest us. We want to get off the roadmap and change the way we think about things. And because, as Ms. Hsu also mentioned this morning, it's all great to demonstrate technology at speed and scale, but that doesn't actually make a difference in the real world. So we are looking at different ways to transition capability. One of the things that my boss is super interested in is the whole concept of as a service. Now, this is language that, in my opinion, is massively overused. It's not like as a service doesn't exist in the real world right now. But one of the things that we learned is that the government has an extraordinarily difficult time actually interacting with the commercial world and, say, buying data or buying communications or buying something else. And so some of the programs that we have are actually all about business processes and how you change the conversation between the people that are actually providing the great capability and the people that need the capability, and shortening that time from as Ms. Hsu said, 2-year cycles where you demonstrate a capability, you beg for money, you convince the person to write a requirement, he palms, et cetera, to going straight from, in some cases, in the labs of our performers to out in the field where we're working with users to actually demonstrate real capability in real time and changing that conversation. Much like we are changing the things that we are interested in, we are also changing the domains that we operate in. Traditionally, you know, it was land and sea and space and air. Now we're thinking about other domains. Mr. Welby this morning talked about climate change. And certainly sensors and activities to react to climate change and to try to improve that are extraordinarily valuable. But in some cases, that ship has already sailed. And so how do we operate in a world that is different than the world in which I was born in, right? Where, for instance, the Arctic does not look anything the way it used to. And so do we need new sensors, new capabilities in order to operate in that domain. The urban environment, right? Everybody lives in cities now, right? What do we need to do differently in that domain? Space, right? We've been in space, and everybody is taking enormous advantage of LEO. What about VLEO, right? This is a place where the propulsion is not operating in your favor, right? We have a program in stow right now where we are grateful to be up in orbit for 90 days. What can we do to change that paradigm? And what do we need to do to understand how to better understand how HF propagates in that regime? Lunar operations. Mr. Welby this morning mentioned the fact that India just landed on the South Pole. Everybody in my lifetime is going to have landed on the South Pole. We need to learn how to operate in this environment better. We, in stow, have a program. The announcement's out. It's called Luna 10. The proposals are due, the abstracts are due on September 25th. Today is the last day to submit a FAQ. And Luna 10 is looking at how do we develop an architecture for things like, for utilities, comms, navigation, P&T, situational awareness, et cetera. How can we develop an architecture so that we and our partners and allies can operate not from a scientific perspective, right? That's NASA's job. Although under the Luna 10 effort, we are working with them very closely. But how can we operate there from a commercial perspective? Senator Cantwell noted that this is the place of the space economy. We think that they're right. We want to be part of that. These are all things that you guys know about intimately. And one of the things that I should have mentioned is what a STOW program is not, is taking the great work that you do and putting it in a box. It is about making it make a difference, changing that conversation and using it in new and interesting ways. A couple of the things that we think are technologies that are ripe for use, although I will acknowledge that we're not really sure how we would use them, are the two in the quantum technologies and advanced photonic integrated circuits. The community has done an amazing job at massively advancing where these things are, and we think that's the right time to start thinking about how we can use them. I was an infrared scientist for all of my life, all of my professional life, anyway. And I can tell you from an optical domain and the camouflage, it is really, really hard to hide from the sensors that we have made. But we need to figure out how to do that from DC to daylight, right? We need to be able to hide from our adversaries every place. And there are probably new technologies in the microelectronics, microsystems domain that need to be taken advantage of. High energy physics sources. DARPA has a long history of developing high energy sources. X-rays comes to mind as a place where we're thinking that we need an investment. But really, any magical high energy sources that are out there, we're very much interested in. Underwater comms. This is a really pressing need. I talked about us going out to work in new environments. Underwater is going to become really important, and we need to enable people to have effectively the internet of underwater comms. We're very interested in hearing about any ideas that you have. GPS denied navigation shows up, I swear, on every single chart for the last 30 years. It is still a thing. The community has done an amazing job at using nav to use vision to do nav. But there's a lot of places where there are no features that one can look at, right? Think over the ocean, think over the Arctic, think on the moon, right? How are we going to handle navigation in areas such as this? And clearly, I don't need to be talking to this community about manufacturing. That is what you do. But what we want to do in STOW is to be like the Marines and to be expeditionary. The Marines have a long history of taking advantage of advanced additive manufacturing. We want to enable them to do more. Think energetics, think batteries, think weapons. We're always recruiting. We're always interested in people coming to us with their ideas, both as a PM perspective and from a program perspective. I'll be here all day. Thank you.